On today's episode, I have a very special guest, Rich Wolfenden, football commentator, who's going to be talking to us about the secrets behind football commentary, whether that's preparation, during the game, co-commentary, and what it takes to be a football commentator, and also player football names, whether you get them right or wrong. We know we all do it. So enjoy the show. If you can hit the like button, hype the episode up, that'd be highly appreciated. Let's get to 1,000 likes on this one. And most importantly, comment your thoughts and subscribe to the channel. Up the Villa and enjoy the show. Hello, welcome back to Up the Villa. On today's episode, we've got a special guest, Rich Wolfenden. I mean, I didn't want to butcher his surname because it'd be really bad. Obviously, Rich has to name a lot of footballers. So, yeah, hopefully I've not butchered it, have I?
No, man. One name and you got it spot on. Well done.
Brilliant. Cool. So on today's episode, I really wanted to get Rich on in the summer to talk about football commentary. Rich is a commentator. He was at the Club World Cup and just timings didn't work out for us. But he's on today to talk to us about what it's like to be a football commentator. So my first question then is sort of, how did you get into becoming a football commentator?
Yeah, man. Good to be on. And basically, football commentary, I get so many messages from mostly young lads saying exactly that. How do I get into football commentary? How can I become a football commentator? And my answer is always just go and get some experience. There's so many non-league teams, amateur teams, women's teams, academy teams who like put videos on their YouTube channel of their players, their match, but there's never any comms over it. And Chester, who we used to be not too far away from where I lived, had exactly that. And I just messaged them saying, hey, I'd quite like to get involved in the media team. Could I commentate on your matches? And they were in the National League at the time, and there's some decent teams in the National League, like Wrexham were there, Tranmere were there, Forest Green Rovers were there, Grimsby as well. So you were commentating on some like big football clubs. And I was getting some great experience just going to Chester week in, week out, watching them play awful football as they got relegated in the second season. But yeah, cut my teeth doing that. And then before you know it, it was TalkSport, BBC, Sky Sports. It just kind of falls into place over the years.
I'm personally really intrigued by the initial process of before a game. And I know what you do because I follow you on TikTok and I see your book and I see your drawing. But I want to know what you're putting in that book. But talk to me about before the game, then what's your process of preparing for a big match? I mean, you was on Villa Burnley at the weekend. So what were your preparations before that?
Yeah, it just seemed like perfect timing, really, to do the Villa game this weekend, didn't it? So I haven't actually done a Villa game this season. So, you know, obviously there wasn't too much transfer business at Villa in the summer. So, you know, my knowledge from last season kind of carried over, which was quite helpful. But, I mean, I can show you the book just for the viewer's sake. So I do like a big spread of the 211s. Try to see that. But
yeah, it's cool. Yeah,
the one in red on the left is Aston Villa. There's a couple of players less in the Aston Villa one because there was probably, I think, was there 6 injuries or something like that. I think, and I wasn't sure who was going to fill those spaces, so I just left a little bit of space to write them players down. Like, for example, Emi Martinez, he was a doubt, wasn't he, because he missed the final game in the week. But I thought, oh, he got injured in the warm up. I'll still write him down. But anyway, I get each player in a little block. First name, surname, their age, their nationality, how many caps they played for their country, the previous team, the year they transferred, the transfer fee, if I can find a confirmed source, stats for the season, and then a couple of little editorial lines. So for Emi Martinez, for example, it could have just been, oh, he picked up an injury in the pre-match warm-up against Feyenoord, so Bizot had to come in to replace him. It was only a minor calf strain, so it's taken a late fitness test. And, you know, you hear the commentators drop them in throughout, you know, the matches. Like I watched Manchester City Brentford yesterday in the first half. Peter Drury was so bored because Manchester City were just passing it around left to right. Brentford weren't making a dent. And I could just hear him like going back down to his notes, being like, yeah, so remember back in 2020 when Brentford had their first game against Manchester. Like, we have these notes for that reason, you know, to fill time. But yeah, that's the process. I always try and find as much information as I can on each individual player, and I also do a little bit of research into the fixture itself, like form, history, and yeah, just as much information as possible, because you can never have too much, really.
Yeah. What happens when you arrive sort of at the stadium then? Do you get looked after a little bit, or are you sort of just into your zone and that's it?
You do get looked after. Like some stadiums, you get looked after more than others. My one yesterday was for TalkSport International and on the Premier League app. So I didn't actually go to Villa Park, and I've never been to Villa Park. So I drive past it so much down the motorway. I would love to go, but you go to a lot of stadiums, and some really look after you. I have to say, like I went to Tottenham last season, and Tottenham Stadium's like phenomenal, like 5-star restaurant, incredible experience. It's like you're at a 5-star hotel with a football match going on. But then you go to like Blackburn Rovers, and I love Blackburn, but you go there and it's just like a tray of cold tuna or egg sandwiches, and you're like, oh. But it's great that they put something on for us. Yeah, generally they're very welcoming, and someone comes around and asks if you want like a drink, and they give you team sheets, and they don't have to treat us like that. We're just there to report on the match, right? But they make it comfortable for us. You know, there's more money and more resources the higher up in the pyramid you go. But yeah, they look after you, generally speaking.
And what are you plugging equipment into, like a device, and then that produces you to an audience?
Yeah, so they might have seen some of my other videos on TikTok where I do final score, and final score is just like, you know, the 20-second updates down the line to the studio where Jason Mohammed is, and you have to carry this box called an ISDN kit, and they've been in use since like, I don't know, when Jesus Christ was around, like centuries. And yeah, you just have to take all your wires, plug in the power, plug in the phone cords, your headphones, your microphone, and set it all up yourself. But when you're doing reports, it's a lot easier because you don't have to do as much research as that, because you're only doing 20-second updates. You know, you're not doing 90 minutes of constant rambling. But yeah, you have to set yourself up, which is, you know, it's not all glamour.
Go do it yourself. One thing I watch after the games on a Sunday on Sky is Gary Neville's podcast, and he still uses that old-fashioned microphone. Do you use one of those when you're commentating?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I thought I had one here for a minute then, but it's somewhere else.
How come like technology is just not advanced that you're not sort of like got a little headpiece in or something?
Yeah, I don't know. Like there is headphones. Like, cause I do bits of 5 Live, and my boss has seen those TikToks of me doing like updates at the ground, and he says, "Don't use that headphone microphone combination. Just use the old-fashioned microphone." And they're designed to be used outdoors, and they sound class. So the way it works on these microphones is you got the microphone facing your mouth, but you got the microphone facing backwards as well. So when you've got it resting on your lip like that, all it's picking up is exactly what you're looking at. So it's not picking up anything to the sides. It's just your mouth and the action that you're looking at. So it's designed perfectly to capture the moment. Whereas the ball mic on the end of the whatever you want to call it, the stick, that's picking up everything. So the Coles mic sounds so much better. But I know what you mean. It looks like it's from the war, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, but they're expensive then. You know, that probably cost me about 250 quid, something like that. And mine was secondhand, so God knows what they were like when they were brand new.
Yeah. So I mean, when people are watching football at home, the commentator is sort of like the company to assist you through the game and sort of talk you through the game. So when you're commentating, what's your main objective?
The main objective of the commentator for me is to add to the entertainment. So, excuse me. There's a lot of commentators. I think I'm one of them at times as well. You know, commentators love to just ramble quite a lot of the time, especially if there's nothing going on. Like the amount of stick that Sam Matterface and Lee Dixon get when they're doing an England game, and you know England are just dominating Andorra, but it's only 1-0, and they're just having a conversation. That's when people get annoyed, and I get it because they're not adding to the entertainment in any kind of way. Yeah, you've got to give something which adds value to the match that you're watching. Like it's not time for you to have a discussion about who he's picked in the England squad or why so and so is on the bench for Villa when he should be starting. Like that's not the conversation to have during the match. You got 90 minutes of football, talk about the football. So yeah, you got to add to it. I think that's the main goal of the commentator.
Do you feel like you've got to be able to read a game of football as well, rather than just talk about what's actually happening? Do you get what I'm sort of saying?
Like the tail of the match and the direction you can see it going in.
Yeah, or also like your understanding of football in a way. You know, some people can watch football but not really have a clue tactically or how it's set up. Do you feel like you have to be able to like read the game quite well?
Yeah, definitely. You know, like all commentators, I was literally thinking this last night, get into football because they have passion for their team and for football. And I know so many football clubs that big commentators support, but I don't think it's general knowledge. And I was like, imagine somebody just leaked all the football teams that all the commentators support. Like that would be pure drama. But yeah, like we've all got a deep knowledge of football. You know, I mean, I'm an Everton fan, and I've had an Everton season ticket since 2007. So I've watched, you know, a lot of good football, a lot of bad football, a lot of Villa actually, and yeah, you know, you just build up. It's the same as you watching Villa week in, week out. Like you can kind of see the formation that Villa are set up with, how they are off the ball, how they are with the ball. You just kind of learn it from watching it a lot. And I know that's quite a simplistic answer, but it is. You know, we've not done coaching courses or anything like that to learn about tactical analysis. But you know, if you've got a co-commentator alongside you who's played the game, like they're more inclined to and qualified to talk about that sort of thing. So we tend to pass on the questions to them, you know.
Yeah. So talk to me about the big moments then, like, because these big moments now we've sort of like social media obviously get clipped up, highlight reels. Talk to me about when goals are going in. Do you feel like there's more pressure to nail that, because that's what you hear, isn't it? You know, and even so, when say like if you're doing the BBC and you sort of get that sort of 30-minute, we've gone to the ground and how's the game going? Do you feel more pressure to nail that, or is it just quite comfortable?
You know that's the moment that's going to be in the highlights package on ITV. So, for example, I did Newport versus Swindon in League Two on Saturday. Not the most glamorous game I've done. Dead stormy as well. But it was only 1-0 and the goal was quite early on. And, you know, like any kind of job, like you don't just like sit down at your desk and hit peak efficiency and capacity at that. Like you take a little bit of time to get into it. And they scored early on. And I thought the call I did was all right. But if it was in like the 75th minute or something, it would have sounded a lot slicker. And then throughout that, I think it was 10 minutes in, Ollie Palmer scored for Swindon. And then for the next 80 minutes, I'm thinking, I hope there's another goal so that I can sound better goal than I did the first, even though it didn't sound too bad on the first one. But yeah, like you're aware that that's the moment that's going to get shown over and over again, because no one's going to sit there and watch the full 90-minute highlights, really, compared to the goals anyway.
And you mentioned co-commentators. Does that alter how the commentator behaves if it's sort of with somebody else?
Yeah, definitely. Like you have rapport as well with commentators and co-commentators, ones that have worked together more regularly than not. So when I went out to America for the Club World Cup, I was with Michael Brown, and I had never worked with him ever before. And I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, and we got a month together in America here. I hope we get along. You know, we're on every flight and every hotel together. And you can hear in the first few matches, maybe the group stage, you're like, oh, there's a few rough edges. It's obvious they've not worked together before. But then by the end of it, like you're bouncing off one another. You're like a doubles team in tennis or something like that. Like, you know your role, you know when to step forward, you know when to step back. And you just kind of find your rhythm. You know, Peter Drury and Gary Neville, probably like the perfect example of that. Bill Leslie, Jamie Carragher, like they Don Goodman and Gary Weaver, like they make it work from working over and over again. But yeah, you kind of get to learn your role over time more than like a directorial agreement beforehand.
Yeah. So Club World Cup there, I think a lot of football fans were a bit sort of skeptical of like watching it, and yeah, it's sort of had this weird vibe at the start of it. But to be honest, I really enjoyed it, and I imagine that was like a pretty big gig for you to get.
Yeah, biggest gig I've worked on, really. Like I said, I don't get to go to the stadium all the time to commentate on football matches, and when I do, it tends to be like an EFL ground rather than a Premier League ground. So to go to America and like go to the MetLife in New Jersey and go to the Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta and the home of the Miami Dolphins in Miami, like it was just absolutely insane. But it's funny though. It's funny that you mentioned that because I'd listen to podcasts when I was in the gym or in the cafe or whatever in America, and they'd be talking more about the Euros for the under-21s more than the Club World Cup on Football Daily, for example. And I'd be like, oh, do people really care about this? But then you'd go on YouTube to watch the highlights of your match back or something, and there's already like a few million people who've watched it. And I'm like, this is a FIFA tournament at the end of the day. You don't realize like football is, people pay interest to football tournaments, not just necessarily English fans, but from around the world. So the South Americans were all up for it as well. The North Americans were all up for it. Like it was a massive tournament, but I don't think it actually probably felt like it back home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'd agree. I mean, it was on Channel 5 as well, wasn't it? So I feel like you have BBC, ITV, like Channel 5. You're like, oh, who watches Channel 5? But I enjoyed it. I thought it was quite good. I think one thing football fans can get horribly wrong is football players' names. And
right.
I imagine with Villa, there's, some people call them Malin, like, and we support the team. What are you like with just do you ever have a mare, or do you have to make sure you get their names bang on?
Yeah, it's a forever ongoing conversation between commentators or just general football fans as well, really, about how names are pronounced. We're lucky for being working in the media because we get told basically by the clubs how to pronounce their name. You'll see the Premier League video where it's all the players standing there just saying their own name to camera, and even that you can't trust in many ways. Like everyone obviously talks about Bruno Fernandes being the way to pronounce it, or
I think Sesko's a weird one. I feel like people go like Sheshko, and I'm like, is that how you say his name? Like, I'll just call him Sesko.
Yeah, I think that one's hard. I think I'd probably say Sheshko, but I don't know if it's not too different. I suppose like Fernandes just feels weird because Fernandes is a name that every English person knows, right? So you're just going to say Fernandes. But there was one at the weekend for Swindon, Aaron Drinan, spelled Drinan, Irish fella. You'd call that Drinan, probably. It's almost like dinner, so you wouldn't call it diner. And it's pronounced Drinan, and we've got the pronunciation guide from the club saying Dry-Nan, Drinan. Great, that's how I pronounce it. And then I mention his name on the commentary, and the comments are saying, you pronounced it wrong. And I'm like, I've not. I've literally taken the guidance from the club. And if the club who employ him are saying, this is how you say his name, that's who I'm going to believe. But there was a point made by Clive Tildesley on a podcast he used to do about player pronunciations. And this was his argument. So Nathan Collins, the Brentford defender, Irish fella, in this Premier League video, he names himself, pronounces his name as Nathan Collins because he's Irish, Nathan. But we're not going to call him Nathan Collins, are we? So it's a forever ongoing argument. Like there's never going to be someone who wins and someone who loses. We just have to find a way.
Or you could do a Christian Norgard and completely change the way he talk. He says his name after like the next season.
Yeah, you can't be doing that. You can't change your name midway through the bloody campaign. It's like Andy Cole and Andrew Cole. Like you're Andy Cole. Yeah.
Definitely. So you commentated on Villa and Burnley. What did you make of Villa against Burnley, and what have you made of sort of Villa this season?
Yeah, they've obviously improved recently. Back-to-back wins in the Premier League. Is it 4 wins on the trot now, isn't it, in all competitions? Really good for Villa. I've got a lot of friends who are Villa fans as well, so it's nice to see them have this upturn in form. I still don't think you were back to your best yesterday. I think you could probably put it down to a little bit of tiredness, maybe, from the European adventure to Rotterdam, but Burnley, they weren't too far behind Villa in terms of the performance. I just think Aston Villa had that cutting edge. The quality they had showed through. And the one opportunity to just unleash the pace that Villa have, they took it. And, as soon as Marlon was one-on-one with Esteve, you knew he was going to get away from him. I know he got forced wide a little bit, but did really well to finish it. I don't know. Obviously, Ollie Watkins hasn't had the best of starts to the season as well. He looked a little bit isolated at times. Like the front line kind of moved all over the place, didn't it, for Aston Villa? Which I suppose is what you want if you're trying to keep defenders on their toes. But it's good to see them stepping up and starting to improve and get a few results. I mean, I'm absolutely gutted that Everton only managed to draw 0-0 with you at the new stadium. But yeah, I like Aston Villa, and I hope they do well.
I might as well ask you about Grealish then, being as you're an Everton fan. What are you making of Grealish then?
Yeah, he's really, like, we needed a player, and you've got to remember at the end of the day, like, he's a £100 million player, and we've somehow managed to get him on loan for the season. But yeah, he's just given Everton an extra kind of dimension. Like, we normally have Dwight McNeil playing on the left-hand side, and they're chalk and cheese, aren't they? They might play the same position, but they're so different. When Dwight McNeil gets on the ball, you don't think Dwight McNeil can run past these two defenders in front of him. Whereas Jack Grealish, every time he gets the ball, I sit at the side of the pitch. So I see him quite a bit down in front of me when I get to go to Everton. And he's just exciting, and the potential that he's got in those boots is next level. And I think it helps as well that he's quite a nice fella, quite a down-to-earth bloke. You see him do post-match interviews all the time, and he just seems so down-to-earth and normal. And I think generally football fans are quite happy for him that he's got the move to Everton as well, after being, chained to this Manchester City machine for so many years. And he's finally, rediscovered his Aston Villa Grealish rather than his Manchester City Grealish.
Yeah, I think whenever I talk to Everton fans, they like Villa, and the two clubs are quite similar. And I feel like it probably is even though he's not at Villa, which is like he's probably like his home, he probably feels like he's got a new home at Everton that's quite similar to Villa, really. So I think it's brilliant to see him doing really well, and he got the winner at the weekend, didn't he? So fair play to him. Then so finally, then sort of like what's sort of like next? What's your big dream? Like what's the game that would sort of you go, whoa, I've nailed what I wanted to achieve if you were to commentate on it?
That's a tough one. That I mean, commentary is like an old boys game, really. So you got Peter Drury, who's the main commentator at Sky Sports, and he's been around for 30 plus years. And before him it was Martin Tyler, and I actually bumped into Martin Tyler in America. And Everton beat Bayern Munich in the 1985 Cup Winners' Cup semi-final, and he commentated on it, and that was 7 years before I was born. And I'm like, oh my God, I've got so many years until I can get to that level. But for me, it's just, you want to do more big games. You want to do matches that people watch, people listen to. You just want to be in front of a lot of eyes and a lot of ears. Like, I do a lot of League Two games and League One games, and they're not being watched by too many people. And you're like, oh, it's fun to do these lower league teams, but having a taste of going out to the Club World Cup and do it. I did PSG versus Bayern Munich, and I was seeing Thomas Müller and Harry Kane, and Donnarumma, Marquinhos, Dembele, who's just won the Ballon d'Or. Like, it was a phenomenal football match, easily the best game I've commentated on. 2 red cards and a last-minute winner. It was insane. But the World Cup's coming up next year, so I've never been to a World Cup before, and it happens to be in America, Canada, and Mexico. So I'd quite love to go out to the States and get to do a bit of work out there, which would be absolutely class. I just want to do games that lots of people watch. That's as simple as it is, really.
Yeah. So thank you for coming on, mate. Your insight into it was brilliant, because I think it's something that probably not many talk about commentary, but I think it's important because it's really cool. And if Villa fans want to see more from you, then I think TikTok is the best place, because he does his breakdowns, little videos of how he prepares before a game and stuff like that. So yeah, thank you for coming on, mate. It's been brilliant.
My pleasure, mate. Thanks for having us.